later. At this point, I'm about 3 centimeters dilated, and they just wanted to hold off a little bit. So a few hours later, we tried the Pitocin again, and he reacted okay to it. And that is when, oh my gosh, I felt the contractions. That Pitocin, it hit me hard. I'm very sensitive to any sort of drugs or anything, and I just felt it immediately. I was like, whoa, that's a Pitocin contraction. And they started coming, and I was just like miserable. They hurt so bad. And but at this point, my doula had arrived, and so between her and my husband, they were able to help me breathe through the contractions, and just cope with them. I found that my husband's hand on my lower back was necessary for me to cope with my contractions. If he didn't have his hand there, I freaked out. It was the funniest thing, and I don't know, it was very quirky. And he tried to put pressure on it, like massage it. No, don't, just put your hand there, just rest it there. Like something about the warmth or the energy of his hand, like, helped me through the contractions. Very strange. Women in labor are very strange. And then as we progressed, we called the midwife to come be with us. The midwife showed up, and she continued to help me cope. And this is just like the basics of what happened, but let me just say that the whole time, the nurses are kind of, well, I had one really good nurse named Renee, and I loved Renee. But I wanted to be able to labor in whatever position I wanted. But because I was on the Pitocin, because I had the IV, all that stuff, they had the baby on constant monitoring on my stomach, which was really uncomfortable. But about every, I'd say 10 to 15 minutes, the nurse would come in and be like, "You messed up your monitor again." Like, I would, I'd kneel on the ground, or I'd get on the ball, or I'd switch positions. Not to mention every time I had to go up and use the restroom. So they were constantly coming in like, "Honey, you need to stay still so we can monitor your baby." And it was getting on my nerves, because I knew that lying on my back was not going to get the baby out, and it hurt like hell. So I just continued to do what I was going to do within reason. I mean, every time I kneeled on the ground, which felt really good, like on all fours, I tried to do it on the bed, but it just didn't work. It would really mess it up. And so I didn't do that anymore, but it was really annoying and restrictive, and I felt like I could have labored a lot more comfortably if I did not have the IV or wasn't on such strict monitoring. But what are you gonna do? But I was that patient to the nurses. I was constantly asking for things, and they were constantly coming in and telling me that I messed up the monitors. So it was interesting. So finally, we get to this point where the contractions are starting to hit really hard, and things are starting to get a little fuzzy for me. It's a blur around me, and I knew that things were going on, but when I was in the contraction state, I couldn't focus on anything else. Even when I was between contractions, like, I'd fall asleep. I was so exhausted, and they were getting very painful, very, very painful. And I was so grateful that the nurses were not asking me if I wanted an epidural. I told them at the beginning, I said, "Do not ask me if I want an epidural. If I want one, I will tell you." Because at that point, when I got to that pain, I knew that it was, that's the moment that they talk about where women are like, "Okay, get me out. Like, anything will help me. If I don't care what I have to do, like, get this pain away," because it was so bad. So I was so grateful that the nurses respected that, and they didn't ask me, because I think I would have been really weak at that point, because it was starting to get to me, and I was starting to feel doubts and scared, and oh my gosh, like, am I gonna die? Those crazy thoughts. But my midwife and doula, and they reassured me that I was in the hardest part, and it was also the shortest part. the transition phase. And so if I could just get through that, the baby was at the end. So that's what I did. And my sister actually took a little footage of me in that stage. I didn't even realize she was doing it. Like, that's how out of it I was. And so I'll show a little, like maybe one contraction. So inside, I felt like I was screaming and the Pitocin was making me shake like crazy. But on the outside, like, I seemed pretty composed in this video, and that surprised me so much when I saw it, because I was like, wasn't I yelling? Wasn't I screaming and crying? And it was just amazing that was all the storm inside of me. And those of you who have labored maybe have felt that too, like, just you felt so out of control. But in fact, like, you are more composed than you think, and that's just incredible. So anyway, about that time, I got up to go to the restroom, which shows it in the video, and I came back and I felt something burst. Like, that's when I'm pretty sure my water broke, and I just said, oh, something broke inside of me. And at that point, the nurses are called in, and they notify the doctor that it's time. And I'm just like, how did this happen? This happened so quickly, and before I know it, like, they're putting me in the stirrups and they're starting to tell me to push when I feel the urge. And I was like, what are you talking about? And the second they started telling me when I feel the urge, then all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is what they're talking about. I know exactly what they're talking about because I felt it. So I was like, okay. So I just started pushing and, starting to get the baby. And that part is just so fuzzy to me because it was so painful, and there was so much going on. And finally, the doctor's there, and they keep telling me to push and breathe and push and, take a deep breath and then push again. And before I know it, they're like, feel your baby's head. I was like, what? How did that happen so fast? And so I felt little Charlie's head, and they're saying he has lots of hair, Lauren. And I just could not believe it. And one more big push, and I felt that ring of fire that, oh my gosh, hurt so much. And then it was like the worst pain of my life for a few seconds, and then it was gone. And then his head had gone through, and then I got his shoulders, and then I had a baby, and they put him on me, and I got to hold him, and my husband cut the cord. It was so unreal. It was so unreal and so amazing. I was in such shock just of, like, all the intensity of everything going on. Like, I didn't even, like, cry or anything. I thought when I saw my baby I would cry immediately because I'm so sensitive to stuff like that. I didn't. I was like, oh my gosh, like, wow, this was so amazing. So they took baby Charlie and to the next to me, into the little bassinet next to me, and they started cleaning him off. And I got my stitches, because I did tear a little bit, but I was just amazed. And I looked around because at this point I'm regaining consciousness, and I see that there's tons of people in the room, and I didn't even notice these people. Like, I was so in my own world, my Laborland world, that I didn't even realize there were so many people in the room. So it was just incredible. We got really lucky because the nursery was full when Charlie was born, so they didn't take him away. They did everything in the room, so he got to stay with us the whole time, which was really lucky. Yeah, so that was the labor and delivery story. But and then postpartum, it was a whole other story. Are you making fun of me, Tony? Say hi to YouTube.
Hi, YouTube.
It's my little brother. But anyway, Charlie's waking up. But so that's the labor and delivery story, and I'll probably make another video about postpartum, or else this will be an hour-long video. But if you have any questions, just let me know, and take care. Bye.